The sky above the alien world was the color of dying embers, red and gray clouds twisting in the wind. Dust storms rolled across the barren land, and somewhere in the middle of it all stood a small, cold prison camp. Inside the camp, in a metal cage barely big enough for him to stand straight, sat a man. He wore torn combat armor, its once strong plating now scratched and dented. His wrists were locked in heavy cuffs, and his ankles chained to the floor. The guards called him the Human, as if that was all he was. To them, he was just another prisoner of war, a broken soldier taken from the battlefield. They believed his spirit was gone, that the fire in him had been extinguished. But they were wrong. Every time a guard walked past, the man's cold. Blue eyes followed them. He didn't speak. He didn't beg. He didn't even ask for water. He simply watched, silent and still, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. One evening, as the twin moons began to rise, the camp's commander arrived. He was tall for his species, his skin a deep shade of green, with ridges running across his forehead. He moved with the arrogance of someone who had never lost a battle. The commander stopped in front of the cage and looked down at the prisoner. "So," he said in a deep, mocking voice, "this is the famous human Marine, the one who caused so much trouble." The man didn't reply. The commander chuckled. "I expected more. You look smaller than I imagined. We have taken your weapons, your freedom, and your war. Now you have nothing left." Still, the Marine stayed silent. The commander's smile widened. "Tell me, Human, are you here to fight us for this year only, or do you plan to fight for this planet alone?" The Marine slowly lifted his head. His eyes met the commander's, cold and unblinking. For a long moment, neither moved. Then, in a quiet voice that carried more weight than a scream, he said, "Both." The commander frowned, confused by the answer. He was expecting fear, maybe anger, but not this. "Both?" he repeated. The Marine's lips curled into the faintest of smiles. "This year and every year after, this planet, and every planet after." A chill ran through the commander's spine. He laughed to hide his unease. Bold words for a man in chains. The Marine leaned forward slightly, the chains rattling. "Chains don't last forever." The commander's laughter faltered. Without another word, he turned and left the cage, the sound of his boots fading into the distance. Night came quickly on this world. The camp grew quiet, except for the faint hum of the electric barriers. The Marine sat motionless, eyes half closed. But his mind was working. Every sound, the footsteps of the guards, the rhythm of the patrols, the whine of the generators, was stored in his memory. In the shadows near the edge of the camp, two figures watched him. They were not soldiers, but civilians, members of a hidden resistance. Their clothes were worn, their faces thin from hunger. One of them, a young woman with pale silver skin, whispered to the other, "That's him, the one we've been hearing about." The older man beside her nodded. "If the stories are true, he's the only one who can help us." The woman glanced at the guards. "If we try to free him, we'll be killed." The man's voice was steady. "If we don't, we'll all be killed. It's only a matter of time." The Marine opened his eyes. He had noticed them long before they spoke. He didn't react, didn't give them away. But inside, a new possibility was forming. All eyes. Hours passed. A guard walked by, yawning. He tapped the cage with his rifle, muttering something in his alien tongue. The Marine didn't move. But when the guard turned his back, something small and sharp slid from the Marine's boot. A hidden blade, so thin it could be mistaken for scrap metal. No one saw him working at the lock on his chains. His movements were slow, patient. One click at a time, the cuffs loosened. A sudden noise broke the stillness, a scream. Not from the Marine, but from the far side of the camp. The guards rushed toward it, weapons raised. In the chaos, no one noticed that one prisoner had stopped looking like a prisoner. The Marine stood up, His wrists were free. His chains were on the ground. He walked to the door of the cage, crouched, and used the blade on the lock. Another click. The door swung open. He stepped out into the night air, every muscle ready for violence. From the shadows, the young silver-skinned woman appeared. She looked at him, startled by how quickly he had freed himself. "We were going to help you," she whispered. "You still can," the Marine replied. "But when I start, you need to be ready." The older man joined them. Ready for what? The Marine's voice was quiet, but his eyes were like steel. For the war to begin again. Before they could ask anything else, he moved. One guard went down without a sound, the Marine's arm around his neck until the alien collapsed. Another was disarmed before he could fire. The woman watched, shocked. "He's faster than I thought," the older man smiled grimly. "He's human, that's enough." Within minutes, the camp was no longer quiet. Shouts, gunfire, and alarms filled the air. The commander rushed back, furious, only to find his men scattered, some unconscious, others too afraid to face the human. The Marine stood in the middle of the chaos, holding an alien rifle. His eyes locked on the commander. "You thought I was done," he said. The commander raised his weapon, but the Marine fired first. The shot struck the ground at the commander's feet, not killing him, just close enough to make him stumble. "This year," the Marine said, stepping closer, "I fight here." He took another step, his voice a growl. "But next year, next planet, I'll still be fighting." The commander backed away, shaken. The Marine turned to the resistance members. "Time to go." As they disappeared into the stormy night, the camp burning behind them, the young woman asked, "Do you really mean it?" "Every year, every planet." The Marine looked straight ahead. "I don't stop until they stop." The wind carried his words away, but the meaning stayed. The war was not over. It had only just begun. The wind howled across the barren plains as the Marine, the silver-skinned woman, and the older man ran through the darkness. The alien camp was far behind them now, but the sounds of chaos, alarms, shouting, and gunfire still echoed in the night air. They didn't speak at first. Every step was careful, every glance over the shoulder full of tension. The Marine led the way, his eyes scanning for movement. He had no map, but his instincts told him where to go. Finally, the woman whispered, "They'll come after us." The Marine didn't slow down. "They already are." The older man panted, his legs struggling to keep pace. "We have a safe place. A hideout, not far. Far enough that they won't find it?" The Marine asked. The man hesitated. "We hope so." That wasn't enough for the Marine, but he didn't argue. He simply kept moving. His mind was still replaying the commander's question, and his own answer. It wasn't just words. It was a promise. And promises for him were like orders. Behind them, a sharp light cut through the dust. The Marine's voice dropped. "Stop." The three froze. The light grew brighter, and the sound of engines reached their ears. "Patrol craft, fast and armed." The woman's voice trembled. "If they see us." "They won't," the Marine said, already pulling them toward a narrow ravine. They slid down into the shadows as the patrol passed overhead. The roar of engines faded, but the Marine didn't move. "Wait," he whispered. They waited until the night was silent again. When they finally climbed out, the woman stared at him. "You've done this before." The Marine gave a half smile. "A few times." They continued until the ground beneath their feet changed from dry dust to hard, cracked stone. Ahead, a jagged rock formation loomed in the moonlight. The older man moved toward a gap between the rocks and tapped a small panel hidden in the stone. A section of rock slid aside, revealing a dark tunnel. "Inside," he said quickly. The Marine didn't move immediately. He studied the entrance, the shadows, the wind direction. Then he nodded and stepped in. The tunnel smelled of damp earth. Dim lights flickered on the walls, leading them deeper underground. They emerged into a hidden chamber where a handful of alien rebels waited, all different shapes, colors, and sizes, but all with the same hard, tired eyes. "This is him?" one asked, looking at the Marine. "This is him," the silver-skinned woman replied. The room was silent for a moment, every gaze fixed on the human. Finally, a tall alien with dark red skin stepped forward. "Why should we trust you?" The Marine looked at him without blinking. "You shouldn't. Trust is earned." The tall alien narrowed his eyes. "And how do you plan to earn it?" The Marine's voice was calm but firm. "By ending the war that's killing all of us." Some in the group exchanged glances. The older man stepped in. "He fought them before. He escaped their camp. If we work together, or," interrupted another rebel, "he could be bait, a trap." The Marine's expression didn't change. "If I were bait, you'd already be dead." The room went quiet again. Then the silver-skinned woman spoke. "We can argue later. Right now, they'll be tracking us." "We don't have much time," the Marine nodded. "She's right. They'll follow my trail here. You have two choices, run or fight." The tall alien stepped closer. "And you? What will you do?" The Marine's answer was instant. "Fight." They didn't have long to prepare. Minutes later, sensors lit up with movement outside the hideout. The aliens were coming, soldiers in armor, weapons ready. The rebels scattered to defensive positions. The Marine took a rifle from the tall alien without asking. He checked the magazine, adjusted the sights, and took cover near the entrance. The first blast shook the tunnel. Dust fell from the ceiling. Another blast followed, and then the sound of boots. "Hold," the Marine ordered. His voice carried the weight of someone who had commanded men before. "Wait for them to get close." Shadows appeared in the tunnel. The moment the first alien soldiers stepped through, the Marine opened fire. The rebels joined in, their weapons flashing in the dark. The tunnel filled with the smell of smoke and the screams of the wounded. More soldiers pushed forward, but the Marine moved like a ghost, never staying in one place. He fired, reloaded, and moved again, always one step ahead of the enemy's aim. In the chaos, the silver-skinned woman was pinned down. A soldier raised his weapon at her, but before he could fire, the Marine slammed into him from the side, knocking him to the ground. "Stay behind me," he told her. The fighting raged for what felt like hours, though it was only minutes. Finally, the last soldier fell, and silence filled the tunnel. The rebels looked around, breathing hard. The older man wiped sweat from his brow. "We've never beaten them like that before." The Marine set his rifle down. "You didn't beat them. We just survived the first wave." The tall alien stepped forward again, this time without hostility. "Maybe we were wrong about you." The Marine met his gaze. "Maybe." The silver-skinned woman approached, her voice low. "They won't stop now. They'll send more, stronger." The Marine's answer was the same as before, cold, steady, unshaken. "Then so will I." Outside, the wind carried the scent of burning metal from the wrecked patrol craft. In the distance, the alien commander stood on a ridge, watching through binoculars. He lowered them slowly, his jaw tight. "So," he muttered, "the human wants another war." The stars above the alien sky shimmered, silent witnesses to the promise of battles yet to come. The underground hideout was quiet now, but the air was heavy with the smell of smoke and burnt metal. The rebels sat scattered around the main chamber, their faces lit only by the dim glow of the wall lamps. Some cleaned their weapons. Others tended to small wounds. But all of them kept stealing glances at the human. The Marine sat alone, leaning against the wall. His armor was scratched, his hands still marked from the fight. He didn't speak. He simply sharpened the small blade he had hidden in his boot, the same one that had freed him from the alien camp. The silver-skinned woman approached cautiously. "You didn't rest," she said. I will when they stop coming, he replied. She hesitated. You fight like someone who has nothing to lose. The Marine's eyes stayed on the blade. I fight like someone who refuses to lose. Before she could answer, the older man hurried in from one of the tunnels. His face was tense. Scouts saw movement outside. Not soldiers this time, smaller group, different uniforms. The tall red-skinned alien frowned. Another patrol? The older man shook his head. No, these aren't from the commander's army. They're from somewhere else. The Marine finally looked up. Show me. Minutes later, he stood at the mouth of a narrow observation tunnel. Through a crack in the rock, he saw them, 4 figures moving quietly across the open ground. They were not armored like soldiers, but they moved with the same discipline. One of them stopped and looked directly toward the hideout. Position. The Marine stepped back into the shadows. They're not patrols, he said quietly. They're hunters. The tall alien's voice was sharp. Hunters, for us? For me, the Marine corrected. That single word filled the tunnel with silence. The silver-skinned woman's voice was low. If they're after you, they'll find us. All. They already have, the Marine said, his tone calm but final. We can wait here and die. Or take the fight to them before they get close. The tall alien crossed his arms. That's suicide. The Marine's expression didn't change, so was waiting. After a moment of tense silence, the older man spoke. He's right. If we let them surround us, we're trapped. Reluctantly, the rebels armed themselves. The Marine led them out through a side tunnel that opened into the rocky plains. The night was dark, but the wind carried whispers of movement. They split into 2 groups. The Marine moved with the silver-skinned woman and 1 younger rebel. He kept his steps light, every sense focused that it didn't take long to find the hunters. They were waiting, hidden in the rocks, rifles ready. The Marine raised his hand, signaling the others to stop. Then he whispered, "Stay low. Watch me." He vanished into the shadows. The woman watched, startled at how quickly he disappeared. Seconds later, one of the hunters fell without a sound, dragged back into the darkness. The others turned, confused, and that was when the rebels attacked. Gunfire tore through the night. The hunters fought back fiercely, moving faster than ordinary soldiers. They weren't here to capture. They were here to kill. The Marine reappeared beside the woman, firing twice before ducking behind a boulder. "Stay behind me," he ordered. The fight was brutal. Every time a hunter fell, another seemed to take his place. But slowly, the rebels began to push them back. Then, in the middle of the chaos, one of the hunters shouted something in the alien language. The Marine recognized only one word, his own name. He turned sharply toward the voice. A tall, hooded figure stood at the edge of the battlefield, not firing, not running, just watching. The Marine's eyes narrowed. He started toward the figure, but a sudden explosion threw dust and fire into the air. When the smoke cleared, the hooded watcher was gone. The remaining hunters retreated quickly, disappearing into the rocks as if they had never been there. Rebels gathered, breathing hard. The tall alien leader looked at the Marine. "What was that?" "Not soldiers," the Marine said quietly. "Not assassins. They were testing me." The silver-skinned woman stepped closer. "Testing you?" "For what?" The Marine looked out into the dark, where the hooded figure had stood. "For something worse than war," the tall alien frowned. "Worse?" The Marine slid his blade back into his boot. "They're not the commander's people. They're not part of his army. Whoever they are, they've been watching for a long time." The older man's voice was uneasy. "Watching? For what?" The Marine didn't answer right away. His gaze stayed fixed on the horizon. Finally he said, "For the moment I leave this planet." The rebels slept in uneasy silence, their makeshift beds lined along the cold stone floor. The air underground felt heavy, as if the tunnels themselves were holding their breath. Only the Marine stayed awake. He sat near the entrance, cleaning. A rifle in the dim light. Every click of metal was slow and deliberate. His eyes weren't on the weapon, they were on the darkness beyond the tunnel. The silver-skinned woman stirred, noticing him. "You're not sleeping again." "I don't need to," he replied without looking at her. She sat up, pulling her blanket tighter around her. "You think they'll come back tonight?" "They won't," he said. "Not tonight." She frowned. "Then why do you look like you're ready to fight?" The Marine set the rifle down. "Because I'm not waiting for them to come back." Her eyes widened. "You mean you're going after them?" He nodded. "They're hunting us." "But hunters make mistakes when they become prey." The tall, red-skinned alien stepped into the light, his voice low and sharp. "You're suggesting we attack the commander's camp." "We don't have the numbers." "We don't need numbers," the Marine said. "We need surprise." The leader folded his arms. "And what if you're wrong?" The Marine's tone was calm, almost cold. "Then we die faster. But waiting here means we die slower. Either way, if you want to live, you fight." Silence filled the chamber. The rebels exchanged uneasy looks. Finally, the older man stepped forward. "He's right. The longer we hide, the more they surround us." The silver-skinned woman looked from one face to another. "If we do this, we need a plan." The Marine was already standing. "I have one." Hours later, the rebels moved through the dead forest near the enemy camp. The trees were blackened from old fires, their twisted branches reaching like claws. Into the fog. The air smelled of ash and oil. The Marine moved first, silent and focused. Every step was calculated. Behind him, the rebels followed in tight formation, their weapons ready. Through the fog, the faint glow of the alien camp's perimeter lights appeared. The hum of the electric fence vibrated in the air. The silver-skinned woman whispered, "How do we get through that?" The Marine knelt, pulling a small device from his pack, a piece of alien tech he'd stolen from a guard weeks ago. He pressed a button, and the device began to hum softly. 30 seconds, he said. The rebels exchanged glances. 30 seconds for what? For the fence to think it doesn't exist. The lights on the fence flickered once, then went dark. "Move," the Marine ordered. They slipped through the gap, the fence sparking faintly as it came back to life behind them. The camp was quiet, but not sleeping. Guards patrolled in slow loops. The Marine counted their steps, their turns, their blind spots. He moved like a shadow, his knife in hand. The first guard never saw him. One quick strike, and the body was lowered silently to the ground. The silver-skinned woman swallowed hard, forcing herself not to look. Another guard disappeared moments later, pulled into the shadows. The rebels began to realize what was happening. The camp's watch was thinning. One by one, the tall alien leader whispered, "He's clearing a path." It was true. Within minutes, they were inside the heart of the camp. The Marine stopped, pointing toward a large, heavily guarded building. "That's the command post. We take that out, they lose control." "But we can't fight them all at once," the woman said. "We won't," the Marine replied. "We take their voice before they can shout." They moved in. The rebels took positions around the building while the Marine slipped inside through a side hatch. Inside, the air was warmer, filled with the hum of machinery. Screens glowed with maps and troop movements. A single alien officer stood at a console, unaware of the danger behind him. The Marine stepped forward, his voice low. "Where's your commander?" The officer froze. "Who?" "The Marines." Blade pressed against his neck. "Where?" The officer hesitated, then pointed toward the far wall. A secured door hissed open. Beyond it stood the commander himself, his green skin catching the light, his ridged brow furrowed in shock. "You," the commander said slowly, almost in disbelief. "You came back." The Marine stepped into the room, rifle in hand. "I told you chains don't last." The commander laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Do you think killing me will stop the war?" "No," the Marine said, "but it will start the one I want." The commander's smile faded. "You don't scare me." The Marine's voice was ice. "I don't have to. I just have to end you." Before the commander could reach for his weapon, the Marine fired. The shot was clean, the sound swallowed by the thick walls. Alarms blared instantly. Outside, the camp erupted in confusion. The rebels moved fast, planting explosives on fuel tanks and weapon caches. Flames roared to life, turning the fog into a glowing haze. The Marine emerged from the command post as the silver-skinned woman ran toward him. "We have to go." They sprinted together toward the fence. Behind them, the camp burned, soldiers shouting in panic. When they finally reached the forest, the rebels paused to watch the destruction. The tall alien leader shook his head. "You just made yourself the most wanted being on this planet." The Marine looked at the fire one last time. "Good." The flames from the destroyed camp still lit the night sky as the rebels moved quickly through the blackened forest. The air was thick with smoke, and every distant crack of branches made them freeze. Expecting pursuit, the Marine walked at the front, silent and focused. His rifle hung ready at his side. He didn't look back once. The silver-skinned woman hurried up beside him. "You didn't just hit them. You started a war." He didn't slow down. "That's the point." Her voice was tight. "Do you ever think about what happens to the people caught in the middle?" The Marine glanced at her. "Yes, that's why I don't plan to lose." Behind them, the tall, red-skinned alien leader kept his distance. His eyes followed the human with suspicion. When they finally reached a rocky ridge that overlooked the plains, he called out, "Stop, we talk here." The rebels gathered in a half-circle around the Marine. The leader stepped forward. "You've proven you can fight. No one denies that, but you've also painted a target on all of us. If we keep you with us, they'll hunt us harder than ever." Before, the Marine's voice was calm. "They were always going to hunt you. I just made them show their hand." The leader's eyes narrowed. "And what do you want from us?" The Marine set his rifle down, not as a gesture of peace, but as if he knew no one here could take him by surprise. "I want an army, not just rebels hiding in tunnels. Fighters who will move when I move, hit when I hit." One of the younger rebels scoffed. "You think you can order us around? This isn't your army." The Marine turned his head slowly toward the boy. "Not yet." The silver-skinned woman stepped between them. "Enough. We need him, and he needs us. But we also need to know why he's really here." The Marine studied her for a long moment. "I'm here because they made the mistake of thinking humans fight for one place, one planet. They don't. They fight for every ground they stand on. And I don't stop until they do." The older man from the hideout spoke up quietly. "You're talking about more than this war, aren't you?" The Marine's answer was just one word. "Yes." The leader folded his arms. "If we agree to fight with you, we do it on our terms. We choose our targets." The Marine shook his head. "If we do this, we move fast and hard. We don't defend, we strike. We don't wait, we make them chase us. If you can't do that, you should stay hidden." The rebels shifted uneasily. Some looked angry. Others looked almost convinced. The silver-skinned woman crossed her arms. "And if we say no?" The Marine's voice was quiet but carried weight. "Then I fight alone. And when I win, you can thank me later." Silence stretched over the group. The leader's jaw tightened, but then he gave a single nod. "Fine. We fight your way. But if you get us all killed, I'll make sure you don't walk away." The Marine picked up his rifle. "Fair enough." The alliance began that night. They moved to a new hideout, an abandoned mining facility deep underground. Its tunnels stretched for miles, giving them room to train and plan. The Marine drilled them relentlessly. Again, he barked, as the rebels practiced moving silently. Information. You move like you're carrying your own death in your hands, faster. The younger rebels began to resent him. One muttered, "Who does he think he is?" The Marine didn't turn around. "Someone who knows how to win." Days passed and the rebels started to change. Their movements became sharper. Their coordination improved. Even the leader, still wary of the human, had to admit the difference. But with improvement came danger. Scouts brought news. The commander had tripled patrols and set traps across the plains. Entire villages were being searched. "They're desperate," the older man said. "No," the Marine replied. "They're getting ready for something bigger." One night, as the rebels slept in the lower tunnels, the Marine was in the command room, studying maps. The silver-skinned woman entered quietly. "You don't sleep, you don't rest. And you don't tell us everything," she said. He looked up. "What do you want to know? What's the real reason you're here? This isn't your planet. These aren't your people." The Marine leaned back in his chair. "You think war cares about whose planet it is? The enemy here is the same enemy I've fought before. Different uniforms, same mind. They want control. I don't give it to them." She stared at him. "You make it sound like this fight never ends." "It doesn't," he said simply. Before she could respond, the alarms blared. A red light flashed across the walls. The Marine grabbed his rifle. "They found us," the leader's voice echoed through the tunnels. "Breach on the east side." Rebels scrambled into position. The Marine moved toward the front line, the silver-skinned woman at his side. The sound of footsteps and metal against stone grew louder. Then silence. The Marine stopped, raising a hand. "Something's wrong." From the shadows ahead, a voice called out, the commander's voice. "Human, we don't have to kill them. Give yourself up, and they live." The leader looked at the Marine. "Don't even think about it." The Marine smirked faintly. "I wasn't." The voice came again. "This is your last chance. Walk out now, or watch them burn." The Marine stepped forward into the dim light, his voice steady. "You've already made your last mistake." On his signal, explosives planted earlier in the tunnels detonated. The ground shook and the eastern wall collapsed, burying the enemy under tons of rock. When the dust settled, the rebels looked at the Marine. In shock, the leader asked, "You knew they'd find us?" "I counted on it," the Marine said. "Now we know they bleed in the dark too." The rebels moved swiftly through the winding tunnels beneath the Rocky Mountains. The ground shook faintly beneath their feet, a warning that the enemy was close behind. The Marine led the group, his eyes sharp and alert, every sound echoing. In his mind, "We can't let them catch us in the tunnels," the silver-skinned woman whispered, breathing hard. The Marine nodded. "We won't. We have a plan." The older man carried the last of their supplies, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "Do you really think it will work?" "It has to," the Marine replied, voice low but certain. "If we don't turn this escape into a trap, we're done." They reached a narrow exit hidden behind a loose boulder. The Marine paused, looking back at the rebels. "Get ready. Once we're out, move fast. Follow my lead." Outside, the night was colder and quieter than before. The stars were dim behind thick clouds, but the glowing red eyes of the commander's patrols soon appeared. Cutting through the darkness, the tall alien leader grunted. "They're faster than we expected." The Marine raised his hand, signaling the rebels to stop and hide behind fallen trees and jagged rocks. "Let them come. We want them chasing shadows." The patrols entered the clearing, weapons raised, scanning the area. Suddenly, the Marine fired a single shot into the air. The sound echoed like a gunshot in a canyon. The commander's voice came from the dark. "Show yourself, human. This is your last warning. The Marine stepped out, alone. I'm here. Alone? The commander sneered. You're weaker than I thought. Maybe, the Marine said quietly. But I don't fight alone. At that moment, explosions erupted behind the patrols. Hidden rebels jumped out from the trees, attacking from all sides. The patrols were caught off guard. Some fell quickly. Others tried to run, but the rebels cut off their paths. The commander snarled, firing wildly. The Marine dodged, moving closer. Stop this madness. The commander shouted, Surrender and I'll spare your lives. The Marine's eyes burned. I don't stop until they stop. With a roar, he charged forward, knocking the commander to the ground. The fight was fierce, but quick. The commander lay still, defeated. The remaining patrols fled into the night. The rebels gathered around the Marine, breathing heavily but victorious. The silver-skinned woman smiled faintly. You turned an escape into a battle. The older man nodded. And we survived. The tall alien leader looked at the Marine with new respect. You're more than a fighter, you're a leader. The Marine shook his head. This is just the beginning. As dawn broke, the group prepared to move again. The war was far from over, but for now they had a chance. The rebel camp was quiet but tense. The Marines stood outside, staring up at the alien stars. The war was far from over, but tonight, the air felt different, thick with secrets waiting to be uncovered. The silver-skinned woman approached him slowly. You've been quiet. What are you thinking? He didn't turn right away. About the commander, about why this war began. She nodded. You never told us the full story. The Marine took a deep breath. The commander wasn't always an enemy. We fought side by side once, against a greater threat. His voice dropped, until he betrayed us. The tall alien leader came closer, frowning. Betrayed you? How? There was a plan to unite our people, the Marine said. To build a future where we could all live free. But the commander wanted power. He chose control over peace. He started this war to keep his rule. The older man shook his head. So it's not just about this planet? No, the Marine said. It's about something bigger, control over many worlds. He believes fear keeps order. The woman's eyes widened. And you want to stop him. The Marine's gaze hardened. Before he destroys everything. Suddenly, a scout burst into the camp, breathless. Enemy ships detected. Approaching fast. The Marine grabbed his rifle. Prepare for battle. This ends tonight. Explosions rocked the camp as the enemy attacked. The rebels fought fiercely, but the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. Hold the line. The Marine shouted, firing into the swarm. The silver-skinned woman covered his side. They're coming for the command post. We can't let them take it. The tall alien leader yelled. The Marine charged through the chaos toward the command post. Inside, the commander waited, calm and cruel. You came back, the commander said, voice cold. This ends now, the Marine said, raising his rifle. The two clashed fiercely, each strike echoing with years of betrayal and anger. Finally, the Marine disarmed the commander. It's over. The commander sneered. You think killing me will change anything? The Marine's eyes were fierce. No, but it stops you. He signaled the rebels, who rushed in to secure the area. As the dust settled, the rebel leader approached. What now? The Marine looked out toward the stars. Now we build a future they can't destroy. The silver-skinned woman smiled. Softly, together. The night sky shone bright, a symbol of hope after darkness. The camp was quieter now, but the tension had not left the air. The war was over, but the cost was heavy. The rebels gathered around the Marine and the silver-skinned woman, waiting for what would come next. The Marine stood tall, looking out. Over the horizon where the first light of dawn touched the distant mountains. We won, he said softly. But winning is only the start. The tall alien leader nodded slowly. What happens now? The commander is gone, but his followers will not give up so easily. The Marine turned to face them. We have to be ready. This peace will be fragile. We must rebuild, yes, but also stay strong. The older man looked worried. Rebuild what? Our homes are destroyed, and many have died. The silver-skinned woman stepped forward. We rebuild more than homes. We rebuild trust between our peoples. The Marine smiled faintly. Exactly. It's time for a new kind of fight. They fight for hope. Suddenly, a scout rushed in, breathless. Strange ships approaching from the far edge of the sky. The group froze. The Marine's eyes narrowed. Not all enemies were the commander's face. The tall leader sighed. The war may be over here, but the universe is wide. There will always be new threats. The Marine clenched his fists. Then we will be ready. The silver-skinned woman laid a hand on his arm. Together. As the sun rose higher, the rebels prepared to face whatever came next, stronger and united. The promise of peace was fragile, but so was their will to protect it. The stars above twinkled silently, watching the new beginning take shape beneath their light.